everyone, it's Mike Kokinos. Welcome to the Academic Integrity Series for AMC at FIT. In our first edition here, we're going to take a look at test taking in Blackboard and how we as faculty can discourage academic dishonesty and encourage academic integrity. So let's take a look.
So I think the first thing you want to do is make sure that your students understand what academic integrity is and how it will benefit them in their academic career and also their job career. Let them know why they should be honest and perform with integrity, and that it really is the best thing for them and their future. And I think that is half the battle right there. Let them know that you work hard to do the assignments for them. They're in college for a reason. Why waste their investment and do something like cheat, because they're only cheating themselves. I think what you want to do too is make sure that they understand your policies. Make sure that you place your academic integrity policy on your syllabus, and also links to the FIT academic policy, which are built into the digital syllabus, so that they understand what the ramifications are if they are caught cheating or something like that. Both in your assignment, your class, and also in the whole big picture at FIT. So the other thing is, why do you want to give them a test? I think students get really bent out of shape over tests, and you can use other assessment methods, that will have rubrics and grading and add to their, overall grade book things. So the idea would be to create applications that they can actually use, applications that demonstrate the mastery of things that you're teaching them in class. So I teach a lot of hands-on classes where students will do things like, create an Excel budget, create a profit loss statement, create a loan, and create a video, so that I can use those vehicles to really see that they're mastering the learning objectives. So I think that would be one great way. Instead of giving a test, just give an assignment that really demonstrates the mastery. The next thing is group work. I think, we do a lot of group projects in AMC, and they're really positive. For instance, again, in the television production studio, you can't work alone. You have a crew of people working on a live synchronous interview, and from camera operators to director to audio engineer, lighting. Students are doing all these things, and they're all coming together for the project, and they're all sharing the same grade. So I think this is a great way for students to create a leadership and a teamwork dynamic. And they also need to work together to understand each other's work, to know what their responsibilities are for the project. And, I think this really discourages cheating or plagiarism. When you're working together in a group, they're almost, checking each other in that group dynamic. So I find that works really well. Another thing I think for assessment is to require students to give presentations in the class. So if you can get them to get up there and, espouse the benefits of the project and, what went into it, and really kind of demonstrate their understanding of the project, that's going to be better than them taking a, exam on it. You can have things like progress reports, have students give a progress report on how a project is going, a term project, a group project. One person can speak for the rest of the group to present in class. And then the critical question and answer. So other students can pose questions, or you can pose questions to them, again, to gauge their understanding of the material. And of course, you're grading this stuff in the background as part of either a presentation grade, a participation grade, those kind of things. Okay? If you are going to use a test as a vehicle, make sure that you use the proper instrument. So, a subjective test like a multiple choice or a true or false is great for students to kind of, remember facts and, subject material like that. but it's not really going to get into the deeper learning things. So again, you may want to do a test that has essay questions that will spark critical thinking among your students, analysis, application again to actually use the skills, and also one of the hardest things to gauge and kind of grade is their creative abilities. So the idea of coming up with the right kind of question could be even in a discussion board. You could be doing something like this too. So if you are going to use an exam, try to make sure that you pick the right style of question. Okay. So we're going to take a look at the actual exam in Blackboard, but these are some of the things I just want to go over really quickly. The idea of setting up a window and a timer for the exam. So these are two different things. One is a window of availability, so that the exam will be available from 1 o'clock till 2 o'clock. And that's all the time you have to work on it. Now this can happen in a remote class where, let's say the class is from 12 to 3. You might do a little bit of lecture and review, and then at 1 o'clock you have them all kind of break out and take the exam from 1 to 2, so that the window is there. It opens up at 1, it closes at 2. They only have that time to work on it. You can also set a timer inside of the exam. And again, this is something that will close the exam when the time is up. So if you're giving an open book style exam, you know that students will probably try to do things like Google it or research it or call each other, all those kind of things. But if there's a limited time to complete the exam, that will discourage that. They'll know that they're up against the clock and they may not have time to rummage for the exam, the answers somewhere else. So hopefully they'll prepare before they take the exam. Okay, another thing is to randomize both the questions and the answers. And I'll show you this in the second half too. So the idea would be to make sure that you randomize the questions so that if two students are taking the exam kind of side by side, they'll both see a different question. So they can't say, what's the answer to number 4? Not only that, you can also randomize the answers. So if you're giving a multiple choice question, student A might have number 2 as the correct answer for question 1, whereas student B would have number 4 as the correct answer for question 1. So again, it would be much harder for them to kind of relate the answer from one person to the other with that. Surprise! Okay, so the next thing would be to display the questions one at a time. In a question bank where you have, 5 questions, students can take a screenshot of the questions, and that's not going to be good if they can share the questions, all kinds of things like that. So by seeing just one question at a time, and of course if they're random too, they're not going to be seeing the same question. And also you avoid backtracking, so that once they answer a question, that's it. They're through with that question. The next thing is the idea of limiting feedback on the exam. So you have the ability to let them know the score. Certainly I would let them know the score of the exam after they take it. But you don't really need to let them know every single question, whether they got it right or got it wrong and what the correct answer is, because the idea is that if you give them multiple attempts, or if they're willing to share with their peers, by process of elimination, if you start going over it again and again, or one person goes over it and another person goes over it and they share their results, they'll be able to figure out what the correct answer is pretty quickly. So by limiting that feedback, or maybe waiting until everyone has taken the exam, and then I like to give the feedback live in a Collaborate class. So we go over the exam together, and we make sure that students understand what the correct answer was, or whatever, way after the fact, not while the window is still possibly open for students to be taking the exam. And another thing to look at is this idea of forced completion. It allows the students to only enter the exam once. So once they enter the exam and leave, they can't go back in and pick up from where they left off. You want to complete it in the one session. So if they do have some problem where they have to leave, they'll have to contact you to get back in there. So I think this is another deterrent that works pretty well if you're giving a remote style exam. Let's take a look at setting it up then in Blackboard. Okay, so I loaded my Blackboard courses here, and I'm going to go to one of my courses. And so in order to create a test, what you want to do is go to Course Tools. Okay, so find your Course Tools, and when you click on that, you have all of these tools. The last one here, at least on mine, is Test, Surveys, and Pools. Okay, so you call that up, and you can give create and kind of assign a test here. You can also have polls or surveys here that are a little harder to grade, I think, but they can also be used to assess knowledge. And then pools are things that you can create the kind of test bank or get one from a publisher and kind of have a lot of questions at your availability. This way you can mix and match for different tests, and that also helps, I think, to keep the cheating down. So let's take a look at tests. I'm going to click on that, and I created two here already. Let's create a new test. So build test is the way I want to go. I can import a test if I've already created it. We're going to go with build test. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is give the test a name. So I'm going to call it AMC exam this time instead of test. Let's call it AMC final exam. This way I know what the difference is. Okay, so here I can do a little description of the test. I'll just say complete the exam. Okay, I don't want to go crazy with this. I just want to get through it so I can demonstrate this to you. You can give the instructions here, give it a little bit more. So nothing goes anywhere now. I'm just going to go say submit. And what this is going to do is take me to what's called the test canvas. So the canvas is really kind of like your working area, how you create the exam. Okay, so you can create it by building in these templated kind of question formats. So you have a whole bunch of different question formats, as I was talking about before. Do you want to give them a critical thinking essay, or do you want to give them just a quick multiple choice or true or false? Okay, depending on the material, your students, you have to kind of gauge that. You can also reuse questions from other exams that you created. This is our first, we're not going to go there, and you can upload questions from the pool from here. So let's go with create question. I'm just going to make a one question exam just to give you an idea, and I'll go with the multiple choice because I want to show you how to randomize those. So here's the question title, and I'll just call it question 1. Okay, so you can give it, here's the actual question text here. So let's say something like, what is the best department, let's say the best major at FIT? Okay, I know it's an easy question. Everybody knows the answer to this one, but that's why I picked it. So when you go down here then, you have numbering options, answer orientation. That's what it is. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4. Partial credit, but here's the good one here. Show answers in random order. So that's the idea that if I'm taking the exam and I'm next to someone who, their answers are different than mine. So if they say the correct answer is 2, it's probably not going to be 2 on my exam. Okay, so I would definitely check this one. And here we have 4 answers, and you can see here that you can, put the correct answer on any one of them actually. So let's say we said something like TDM, International Trade and Marketing, Fashion Business Management, and AMC. Okay, so we want to make sure that everybody knows the correct answer to the best major is AMC, right? So then you have the feedback. So again, on the correct answer, you will say something like, you could just say something like, yes, you got it right on that. But for the incorrect response, you can say other things to kind of lead them to the right answer. So I would kind of limit this, at least, in the beginning, because again, if you're giving them multiple attempts, they'll be able to figure out, well, if that's the wrong answer, I've already eliminated, 25% of the answers, so now I can, have a better probability to get the right answer even if I'm guessing it. So I would definitely limit this. I like to do this stuff live in class. Okay, and then I'm going to submit it. And you'll see that question appears here with the right answer. And we can go on like this. Now you can also mix. You don't have to have only multiple choice questions in the exam. You can have, an essay question in there. Every time you do it, you get to create a different question. So you don't have to stick to one format the whole time. So anyway, I'm not going to do much more here. I'm just going to say okay, and because I want to show you how to deploy the exam. So here are the exams now. You can see I have these 3. So this is the one I just created, and you can see none of them are deployed. So in order to deploy the exam, you'd figure out, first of all, where you want it to appear. So typically, you'd probably want it in the content section. Okay, so let's go there. But you can put it anywhere you want. So once you load up, you'll see up here then in your navigation bar, under Assessments, Test. So this will allow us then to get access to the 3 tests, at least that I created. Okay, so here you go. We're going to go with the one that we just created there, the AMC Final Exam. And now when you submit it, this is where you're going to see all of the kind of options for deploying the exam, okay, the test options. So these are pretty important here. So I said complete the exam, that's fine. Descriptions, that's fine. Open up in a new window. I don't think that makes a big deal, whether or not you do with that or not. It just makes for more kind of screen real estate. Make it available. Okay, so here is where, you're really going to be able to kind of create that window. Okay, so if you make it available, then yeah, it's available until you make it not available. Multiple attempts. So I'm suggesting that you do not allow multiple attempts because, like I said, students will be able to figure out the right answer after taking the exam a few times. So you might want to do something more like a practice exam, questions in class, whatever. But then, once you do it, you do it. So here's another one here, forced completion. We talked about that. So what this does, it's really not, when I first saw this, I was thinking, well, how does it force completion? What it really means is that you can only log onto the exam once. So if you want to go, take a break from the exam so you can call up your friend or Google some answers or whatever, it's going to be impossible then for you to get back into the exam, okay? So I would definitely check that forced completion, which means only one time in. If they have some kind of problem, they're going to have to contact you to get back into the exam. And then set timer, absolutely. We want to do this, and you want to give them a set amount of time. Set that timer, and what happens if you click auto submit is when the time is up, it'll automatically submit the exam. Time's up. It's kind of like, Chopped on Food Network, hands off, and let's see everybody's creation. Okay, so now here you can see that you can display the time, right to the minute. So this is where, again, in class, if I have a class from 12 to 1 today, I can say right here, I want the exam to start at a certain time and then end at a certain time, okay? So again, it won't even be available once they try to get in there to go in after the availability time. They won't be able to do it. And so in a remote class, you can send them right away, everybody get in there and start doing the exam at the same time. You know how much time you have. You can even give them a password where they have to, put their credential in order to actually get the exam. Okay. Now you can actually assign these exams to both groups or individuals, and you can see I have groups in this class. So I can give it as a group exam, and when you give either an assignment or a test as a group assignment, what happens is that only one person has to submit it, and then everybody in that group should share the same grade. So you want to be careful about that and make sure you're double checking that. But that would be something that you might want to do if you give group exams. And again, due date, this is kind of leaving it more wide open. So I generally would not do that during an exam. I'm going to give them just that window so they know right away in the time window it's over at a certain time and that's it. Okay, so here is the feedback things. So again, the idea would be the more feedback you give them right from the exam, if they get feedback on all the questions, they're more likely to be able, by process of elimination, to share or figure out, if they have a second attempt, what the correct answer is. So generally for this, I would either not give any feedback, just tell them next class we'll go over it, or you can just give them, for instance, feedback on the correct answers, so they know what answers they got correct. But again, I would probably just limit it from that. And here is the idea of presenting the test all at once. So now, if I have 20 questions, I can scroll through them back and forth, where I probably don't want my students doing that. I'd rather them have only one question at a time. And this also prohibits backtracking. You can allow them to see only the question, let them complete the question, and they can't go back to change that answer. And then the final thing I would definitely do here too is to randomize the questions. Again, so that if they are working and possibly attempting to collaborate with someone, when they say, what's the answer to question 1, they're looking at different questions there. And you can also, we saw, randomize the answers. So even if they figure out what's the question on, video camera lenses, one person's question 1 is correct, the other person's question 3 is correct. So it's much harder for them to attempt to cheat like that if you randomize the questions.
So let me know what you thought about that, and if you need any clarification on any of the points, please let me know. If you'd like to see some other topics in our next series on academic integrity or anything in Blackboard, please let me know.